of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the meeting to order. Thanks for everyone in attendance here in the council chambers, as well as those of you for Dwayne, and to think of his family. Thank you. I'm sure he'd like us to move on, so I'll try to do so. But I do want to, I think he was a big part of this town, and we all miss him. So the first order of business are the public announcements, and details may be found at www.fairfieldme.com. Lawrence Public Library, number 1, digital skills class, keeping your online accounts safe, December 5th at 10 a.m. Holiday programming, December 3rd. Make holiday cards, all ages, all day. December 11th, the holiday music with Bien Sur at 3 o'clock. December 18th, the cookie swap. Registration required. And gingerbread decorating at 3. Winter luminary kits available from December 11th to the 21st. There will also be treats, craft opportunities, and book giveaways. Please call the library or visit our website and Facebook page for more information. Number 2, dog tags for the 2025 season are available at the town office. Current dog tags expire on December 31st. Any dog registered after January 31st will be subject to a $25 late fee per dog. Proof of current rabies vaccine is required upon registration. Number 3, the non-emergency town services will be closed on November 28th and 29th in observance of the holiday. Number 4, on November 30th, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., the Fairfield and Benton Fire Department will be hosting Fill the Truck Toy Drive to support the Fairfield Police Cops Care for Kids. And number 5, Cops Care for Kids walkthrough program, December 19th from 4 to 7:30. Sign up at the fairfieldcopscare.com. And the second order of business is our public hearings, but there are none tonight. The third order of business will be our public comments, limit of 3 minutes. Members of the public may speak to the council or request opportunity to speak on a specific item that is on the agenda, or may email comments or council to info@fairfield-me.gov by 4 p.m. day of meeting. Submitted content may be read aloud at this time. Is there any submitted content? There is none. Anyone wishing to speak? Come on up.
Hi.
Hey, Carrie.
I just want to reserve time
Okay.
Very good.
for the 6th order of business and 24-151.
Nice. Thank you. Tim.
I'd like to represent and speak on 7th order of business, 24-151.
Very good. Any others? Hearing none. The fourth order of business, the reports from staff and committees. So the first one is our town manager report.
All right. So it has been a while since we've met to give any updates. So October 29th, the PFAS committee did meet. Matt Townsend can give you more information on that. And then, of course, November 5th was Election Day. Very proud of all the work that was done by the town office staff during the months leading up to the election and Election Day, as well as the municipal election workers. I don't think people can fully understand unless you actually work at the sheer volume of paperwork that gets touched during the months leading up to the election. So it was a great job done by absolutely everybody. So November 13th, I did attend Maine Municipal Association's Property and Casualty Board meeting in Augusta. We reviewed the past year's audit and discussed new software that will be helpful and user-friendly for municipalities and other pool members. So that's going to be a useful tool. November 19th, did attend the KVCOG board meeting. The discussions included various KVCOG services, but their revolving loan program for businesses and new startups. And they'll be working on getting some promotional information out to folks so that they're better aware of what those tools are. Today I attended the Central Maine Growth Council Board of Directors meeting as well as the LPC meeting in Augusta. We finalized our platform of bills that we're going to be putting through that MMA will be endorsing, which is, they include topics such as the homestead exemption, revenue sharing that is derived from an existing food and lodging tax, not an increase to a tax, but a carve out from it, state jail funding, police academy training, billing for non-transporting emergency services, general assistance reimbursement amounts, and state funding for special education. So it's a pretty wide variety of bills that they'll be putting forward this year. Also, just for some general updates, the results for the inspection at 31 Lawrence Ave and 202 Main Street have been received. The RFP for those buildings demolition will go out within the next week. Also wanted folks to know that there are 2 donation bins at the town office, one for the Grange looking for items for seniors, and then another from Reddington Fairfield General Hospital's Community Health Program looking for hygiene products. So up until today, when I looked, there's only been 1 item placed in each of those boxes, so I feel like folks in this community can maybe do better than that. So thought we'd make sure people knew that stuff is out there and they're looking for those products. Again, to reiterate, the funeral services for Chief Bickford, we have been assisting with that over the course of the last 3 days, and the fire department is going to be very involved with that service, and we're very sorry for the family's loss. And then also just to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving next week. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Michelle. Any questions for Michelle? All right. Economic developments?
We didn't meet in November, but we will be meeting the first Tuesday in December at 3:30 in this room.
Nothing on buildings at this point?
Nothing, no.
So for the PFAS committee, we're actually making great headway. We are moving along on our chief directives, and so we are in the process of putting together our final letter and recommendation. So we should have that actually done before the end of the year. Hopefully, I'm not sure exactly when our meetings fall and we finish up, but hopefully we'll have it actually as a presentation before the council. So the 5th order of business, the consent agenda. These items are considered routine or standard business and therefore will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests prior to consideration of this portion of the agenda, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered next on the agenda. Item 24-149, ordered the Fairfield Town Council hereby waives the reading of and accepts the minutes for meeting number 2024-20 held on October 23rd, 2024, and the minutes from meeting 2024-21 held on Wednesday, October 30th, 2024. Item 24-150, order the Town Council hereby approves the Treasurer's warrant number 85 in the amount of $631,955.03, which includes but is not limited to SAD 49, November allocation, motor vehicle fees, Summit Natural Gas, and Central Maine Power.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor? 5-0. Thank you very much. The 6th order of business, old business, which is this time is to discuss town-owned property. So we have a listing of town-owned properties. Michelle, did you want to say anything, or how?
Sure. So the last time that we discussed, you were provided a list of the town properties. You wanted a little bit more information so that you knew which ones were eligible for sale or used for things or reserved for specific items. So that's the list that was provided to you, and in the description, try to give you a little bit more context as to what each of these items were. I know that you had discussed the town farm property in the past. We've discussed housing, the need for housing, how we can assist with housing, all of those various different pieces. I did ask Kim Linlaw from the Chamber and Garvin Donegan from the Growth Council to come to your meeting tonight, just so to help talk to you about some of the possibilities of things that we can do with town properties and economic development incentives that we can provide to developers. Kim, unfortunately, at the last minute, due to some other chamber issues, was not able to make it this evening, but did send an email that I did provide to you. It wasn't in your original packet, but you did get it tonight. Basically, just letting you know that housing and all types is in a need for housing of all types in the region. We need housing as economic development driver. Our chamber launched a $47,000 marketing campaign in the greater Boston area 3 weeks ago with the intention of our 3 videos to attract people to our region, particularly business startups, business expansion, and quality of life. For this to occur, we need suitable housing where people can work from home, raise their families, and or relocate. So anything we can do, she says, anything that you can do to increase area housing stock would be appreciated. So the Growth Council has discussed actually our town farm property in the past as a potential option for things that you could do, which is why I had asked Garvin to come and the options that are available to us for that. But I leave that with you there.
I would love to hear Garvin speak. I enjoy getting his perspective on things, so thank you for coming tonight.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to chat housing. This is something that we do more regularly these days, but good evening, Council Chair, councilors, Michelle, Fairfield staff and team, and members of the public, Garvin Dunnigan, Central Maine Growth Council. I think maybe we could stop and start this conversation where historically kind of housing and economic development lived in different houses, no pun intended, or at least in kind of different parts of the house. But housing is economic development, and that's critically important. So the need for housing, I think I won't belabor with data points here. This is pretty critical throughout the locality, the region, the state of Maine, but also nationally. Fairfield, like many communities, faces the dual challenges of an aging housing stock and a tight inventory of that housing stock. These factors result in housing crunches and an affordability housing shortage as well. The shortage, as Kim alludes from the chamber perspective, materializes in our economy in numerous ways, but just kind of the thumbnail sketch. Affordability, availability crisis, rising housing costs, of course, make it difficult for individuals and families to find and afford safe houses, thus potentially limiting population growth for the community and for the region. Workforce challenges. Anybody in the business community, owning a business, working in a business, knows that our labor market, the economy, the labor is very tight in the community and in the region. And on one hand, that's kind of a good thing. On the other hand, it makes it much harder for a business to retain or grow its workforce if you can't find adequate housing. Business recruitment, business expansion, business retention. Any particularly mid to large scale business that's looking to come into the community, come into the region, is going to be particularly prioritizing locations that have adequate housing for their workforce. A healthy housing market is critical to retaining businesses. And more broadly, and maybe most importantly, community vitality. A strong, vibrant community depends on a diverse housing stock that meets the needs of people of all ages and of all affordability. So what does this all mean as you look at some of your community assets, municipally owned land? What can the municipality's role be in supporting housing development? Well, fortunately, the town has a wonderful opportunity to address some of these housing-related challenges for the future. So really quickly, maybe a tale of 3 items. A public authority or the town can avail itself to federal and state grants, where private sector developers often cannot directly or indirectly be eligible for these funding opportunities. This is particularly true on high-ticket items, high-price ticket items related to infrastructure, roads, bridges, telematics, broadband, electricity, public water, public sewer. These are also often the most common constraints to development. Why did this business locate here, this project locate there? It's typically associated with, well, there's adequate access to infrastructure and resources. a municipality can play a role in being that conduit to avail these federal or state programs. In doing so, the public authority has the ability to significantly then diversify the funding sources by opening up access to some of these financial tools that are becoming increasingly common in our housing projects in the state of Maine, and frankly, increasingly necessary. Number two, one of my favorite things in the world, public-private partnerships. Unlocking investment capital through public-private partnerships. Just by nature of the town being involved in submitting for a grant or a program or a project or partnering often avails the developer, the investor, the project of boosted competitiveness and grants. This is a very real thing. Likewise with tax programs. You see that in the housing tax credit programs in the state of Maine and beyond. Do you have a public-private partnership? Are you working with the community? You get better scoring. And likewise, this drives and leverages private sector investment. It brings in and supports additional investment opportunities, number one. But number two, the municipality or the public authority begins to de-risk the entire project. It becomes a better bet. It becomes cleaner. And it begins to attract other opportunities into those kind of economic multipliers. Those are probably the two biggest items. And when you look at the grant landscape, federally and statewide, you see that eligibility may exist for the public authority, the town, or the nonprofit, but not the developer. Lastly, kind of just a catch-all to round this out, in partnering, in creating the conditions and working closely with the developer, you also have the very tangible, real benefit of streamlining the development process and enhancing opportunities. So that could be through the permitting process, that could be through good communication, but frankly, it's also wonderful from a preliminary planning perspective that the town can help guide the development in its vision for growth versus having to react to it. And that's where the true partnership probably shines. There's a range of examples, if you were to look at actual grants in the federal ecosystem, in the state ecosystem, that if you put your private sector developer hat on, wouldn't be available. If you put your public sector hat on, you are available. There's a number of tax programs that are similar, and there's wonderful opportunities to collaborate in between. And that's just talking about federal and state. TIF programs, the town has the authority to design projects, permitting, to expedite permitting in terms of at least a thoughtful process. So it's a wonderful opportunity that often just the structure of partnering with a developer costs $0. I'd pause there for now on the macro level, and would just note there's often federal grants that are cycling through annually with local case models that directly stimulate housing projects, either for the public sector, the private sector, or both, or help bring infrastructure in towards the project or get it close to site and significantly reduce those classic barriers to growth in terms of water, sewer, telematics or broadband, electricity, etc. Just a few thoughts. Happy to answer any questions or share any additional perspectives related to housing or kind of the role of the potential roles a municipality can play in the housing development process.
Thank you, Garvin. Yes, Stephanie.
Thank you for coming, Garvin.
Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to know more about what you've been doing in light of the town farm property. What has attracted you to that as a part of for the economic development and the possibility for housing?
Yeah, great question. Well, I think one of the economic development kind of 101s is you look inward at what your assets are. And that particularly you look at what the municipality owns in terms of if it has buildable land, commercial, housing-wise, or parks and recreation. So you do an inventory of the assets, a large, nice, potentially developable piece of land fits that criteria. And then number two, what is the need of the community? Does it make sense from a development pattern? Is it in close proximity to other things? Does it hit that criteria? It would. And then I think more directly what's attractive on particularly the cited parcel is the town has a robust and, what was a costly study on this parcel that outlines needs, at least relative to infrastructure and demand. More broadly, I think we know that when we've done studies together, Councillor, we know that housing always comes up. So with that being a priority of projects, you begin to look at where the kind of regional and local assets are.
So one of the big things with the study and getting that section of 201 done is the need for water and utilities. And it's how many miles? 3 miles or 1.25 miles?
So I think it was
2. I've got it here.
I
can
can't
look it up.
remember off the top of my head how much it was.
So you're saying that there are grants out there that would cost zero for the municipality if we went for these grants that could get water out there for 201 so that development could take place?
The myth of free grant money is just that. It is a myth. I wish it was the case. But there are grants, really all federal and state, and particularly federal state grants usually require, based on where you're located, your census tracts, your demographics, a non-federal match obligation, which can be anywhere from 50 to 20% of the project cost. But that's still tremendous. With that caveat, yes, and to your point, and I so appreciate your thinking, Councillor, the approach that a community often will take is to, in a well-informed plan, and when you have a study, there may be a number of direct and indirect benefits by running, in this case, infrastructure, public water, public sewer, but it could be broadband, fiber optics, down into an area that doesn't exist, that doesn't currently exist, and then a variety of residential, commercial, or even civic or industrial users may be able to use. Those would be the knock-on effects that make a good project great.
So, in your opinion, from the Central Maine Growth Council, the town farm is an asset, and there is the possibility that we could get the grants. And that's what you've been focusing on because you've been inquiring?
In my opinion, housing is economic development, and particularly in this moment in time, the communities that win the housing race will win the economic development race. And that is also, any housing project is predicated on a range of studies and feasibility and funding. But yes, I am also stating, and as we've looked at and almost marched towards, a collection of grants that, for example, would grow domestic or public infrastructure in and around or to that area.
So overall, we need to invest some in order to gain much, especially with taxation and lowering taxes.
Getting a mid to large scale grant is a wonderful opportunity that usually just sets you up for other opportunities. And so, the feds may look for skin in the game, and usually the requirement is tied to what the percentages is the non-federal share of the grant. So sometimes a project, they'll go out and fundraise that match into the public marketplace, use TIF appropriation dollars. That's part of the challenge of putting together a competitive grant application.
Yeah. Thank you.
But we do already have the report.
Yes, we do.
Which we've known as grants that we've applied for in the past. That sometimes can be half the battle, just to make sure you have the information that you need. And then, of course, too, with that property, as we've discussed in the past, one of the biggest catalysts for it was, it allowed the municipality to put housing in an area because the entire region needed it. We had the space, but you were in essence stacking your tax rolls for the ever, because every new home that is constructed in there at some point in time would pay property taxes. So that's it.
So I think the interesting thing about it, because Fairfield does not have we do not have a development corporation, we do not have a housing authority. So, I mean, we need to actually look at and we look at anything like that, we need to look at either selling to a developer and then working with them as a public-private
Yep.
combination.
My question to you, Michelle, is I know Ranger's doing a project off Waterville to Fairfield. How's that project going? I know they're going to put some housing there, too.
I know they are too, but what they have sold or constructed at this point, I do not know. I think that they have been concentrating more on, that project also includes some commercial space for Ranger, the company
I
itself.
know I seen a sign up, a for sale sign up there. Anyway.
I know that they've been trying to sell lots. Whether they've sold them or not,
Okay.
I do not know.
All right. Because I know it's part of it's Waterville, Fairfield anyway, so.
Yeah.
Most of it's Fairfield, and we approved that
Yeah,
development.
we did.
And the
Yep.
roads for that development at the time.
Also, too, we might have some more opportunity, too, for housing off 201, too. Is that 27 acres next to,
That is correct. That is another location too that could also be used for that type of
whether,
use.
Any questions for Garvin? Or more? Any more? Garvin, thank you very much for your thoughts.
Well, I did have one.
Oh, good. Yeah, please.
In terms of the Economic and Community Development Committee, since we're an advisory group to the council, is this something that we should be focusing on? Because we're coming up to the new year and we'll be thinking of goals. What, in your opinion, is that something that we should be addressing?
In my opinion, it would be within the purview of the committee. I'd also note it's probably one of the most active and best community and economic development committees in the region that has regular attendance with council liaisons and community members that make for a very powerful tool when going through a public planning process. And it's a resource that most communities do not have. So whether it's a housing committee or a very active, by many measures, economic community development committee, I think so. And obviously at your leisure, and the community seems actively engaged when we've talked housing before. So it wouldn't seem out of scope in any way.
And the reason I asked that was because what you had just said, Matt, about a committee or a housing.
Yeah, we don't have a development.
We don't have a development corporation, but we do have the Economic Committee. And that's something that, as a council, we would have to decide on if you want to have the Economic Committee kind of look into this area. It's not something that is just because it's out there we're going to go and do, but if it's what you want the Economic Committee to do, we need to hear
so
from
it'll be
you.
a third project for us. I know we're working on 2 projects right now. This will be the third.
No, remember, it's either, we're going to go long-term or short-term,
Okay, all right.
okay? And this is definitely a long-term, but there's research that would have to be done, there's it's multi-layered process in order to get there. It's not like, hey, tomorrow we're going
Oh,
to
yeah.
start this. No. But if it's something you want us to do, I think we need to have it from the council.
Which is why it needs to probably stay on old business, but it's that way it keeps on coming up. There you go.
The one thing about long-term projects, though, is that you want to be mindful, too, that we don't watch very large grant opportunities just pass us by.
Which we have done in the past.
Right. So that is something you want to keep in mind. Now, that, just shifting a little bit from Town Farm, there was just a few other things that I wanted to tell you in relationship to tax foreclosure.
You want Garvin still, or you want to stay? I see you at the podium. Which way to go?
Thank you, guys, and happy to come back up for a chat.
Thanks, Garvin.
All right, thank you, Garvin.
Nice job, Michelle.
So, some interesting information with the tax foreclosure laws on how to handle tax foreclosures that has gone into effect just this past August. One, we will be required to have a realtor for any tax foreclosed property that we wish to get rid of, whether it be something we recently foreclosed on, or by any measure, they said it could potentially be 20 years ago that you foreclosed on. And an interesting piece of the new law that went into play that I actually wasn't aware of until I read the new law, even if you keep a piece of property, you're required to get it appraised and give the value of the appraisal to the previous owner. So it's a little interesting when it comes to tax foreclosures. Yeah, I did the same thing. I'd heard it, didn't think it was true, and it's in there. So, moral of the story is, if it looks like a municipality is going to foreclose on your property, you may be better off to sell it yourself than to have the municipality do it, or come to us and we'll help you find a way to pay your taxes. But anyway, you do have a couple here that we do have some interest in.
Yeah.
So what I would like to do is get a realtor for the municipality, start that process. We'd obviously bring back options for you. It's not something people are jumping up and down about doing for municipalities as realtors, simply because of the fact that we can only provide quick claim deeds, which oftentimes, if you have to buy at market value, people have difficulty with banks, because we can't give clear title, all of those different things. So it's a process that if we're going to put any of these tax foreclosures out for sale, I think it's still going to take us several months before we're ready to do that. So I think that that's something we need to do. And then the piece that is on the Martin Stream Road, I have heard from the president of the ATV Club that may be a piece of property that they'd be interested in. For the club, because it could serve as almost like a park and ride location. I think they thought that maybe they might like to actually build a structure there if that was possible and they could negotiate that. We're not really sure if there's actually enough space to do a structure there, simply because of the wetlands that are in the region, the proximity of the road. But what I would like to do is also start having a conversation with them about how, if there was a way we could partner with the club and not necessarily have to go to a realtor and see if they had to purchase the property. So that's the one that we foreclosed on back in like 1994.
So I don't know how you all feel, but to me, I think I would like to have the town manager of the town enter into at least the discussion with realtors and also with the ATV club on those properties. Can we give her guidance on that end?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm just curious if you have an update on where we're at with those two properties that we have out, RFP for, to be torn down.
The RFP hasn't gone out yet because we just received, I had mentioned it in my manager's report, we just received the evaluations on the asbestos.
Okay.
So I just got those last Thursday. So we had to have those first in order to put that out so that anybody to tear it down knew what it was.
And could you just describe the property on Skowhegan Road, the 27 acres, purchased from Fairfield Historical Society in 2009?
Yes.
That's
So I'm
one
not,
that- so
not
I was
really
not
sure
familiar with that one.
why, but
Yeah.
we did. It is located just up from the Antiques Mall, just beyond Robert Dale's property that's there. The railroad does go through the back end of it. It's not, we currently have it within our forest management plan. We actively harvested according to that plan and have received harvest revenue from that in the past. I think the municipality has kept it as a thought that it would be good prime commercial property should somebody, a developer or a project come along. We do have it in the marketing stack that the Growth Council uses when they get tips and leads as a potential. However, once you get past Shawmut, there aren't any utilities, so water and sewer is not there. So if you think about the needs of a large commercial project, you need fire suppression, which means you need hydrants, or you may need sprinkler systems, and there is no ability for that at this point in time in that region, which is another reason why expanding utilities up 201 gives you a twofold opportunity, right? So it could be commercial development within that region, which could serve that 27-acre lot, as well as getting you to that end point of where the town farm property is just up further beyond that.
Well, in your research there, Michelle, you didn't find out why the town purchased the property from the Historical Society?
No. I'm not sure why.
Because I did do the research, I know the price we paid for it.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that it doesn't exist at the office, and I
Right.
believe I actually did know at one point in time, I just don't remember, so.
Well, I think we should give the town manager
Guidance to do that?
guidance to do that,
Don't need
yes.
to take a
Good.
vote, we just want to give
And
guidance.
that would be progress.
Very
We'll
good.
go forward and get that stuff done. And the concern is that we'll no sooner figure it out than they're gonna just change
Do we
that
need a
law again in the
motion?
next session, but
No,
we'll get
don't
there.
need a Motion.
We don't need a motion.
Just guidance, and I guess the other one would be actually to talk to the economic development, and looking at the town farm property. I think that's something, at least to start discussing that option of really looking at the public-private, partnerships. So I think that is a part of economic development that should be examined.
Okay, and the other counselors, what's your choice? You'd like to have the Economic Committee
Yes.
with guidance from the Central Maine Growth Council?
Yep.
Take a look at that.
Number 2, I said on that committee too, so.
Yeah, and Adam, you're okay with that?
Yeah, I'm just balancing Peter's comments on the multitude of projects, and you feel like it's in the bandwidth,
No.
the wheelhouse, and
Yeah, it is, and...
for the current.
Well, the big thing that we've got going on right now is, of course, we had Mill Island Park, and we're at the process now of getting ready for grants. And the last survey we did that was Parks and Rec related will help us in the grant writing process. The other project is one that we started this year, and that is on the downtown plan, which has not been done or looked at since, I think it was 2009. And so that's something that you have to, it's like doing your housework. You have to keep at it and tweaking it so that we're looking at the future of Fairfield to make it economically sound. So those are the projects.
Because this might lead into that too.
And it dovetails, it's the Venn diagram of life. And the other thing we have going is signage for the town, and that's very short term, and that should be taken care of in the next budget cycle.
And I would propose that one thing that you should think about, because I know the bandwidth is only so wide for economic development, but it's actually, as a council, we could also propose and start a working group even for that property that could work with economic development.
An ad hoc
That's
group.
always a good thing, to get volunteers from the community that are involved, but you also know if you're one of those volunteers that your time frame on that is somewhat limited. You don't have to give
Right.
a 3-year commitment. You have a year or 6 months to work on something. So I think that's something, just an idea I'm throwing out.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so I will put that on the agenda for our next Economic Committee. And as for getting public input at this point, we need to first get our
Yep.
ducks lined up in a
Agreed.
row. So,
Very good. Thank you, Stefan.
you're welcome.
Any other comments, concerns? All right, very good. So now the seventh order of business, to take action on the following items of business as read by the council chair. The first, item 24-151, or the town council hereby approves or rejects an offer of the gift of school property.
I make a motion that we reject the offer.
Second.
So, yes, so we have a motion, a second. Any discussion?
Yes, I would like to hear from the superintendent, who's made the effort to come tonight and explain the process that has led to this point. Please.
And thank you for inviting me, and I apologize for the laryngitis that's affected, my talking is affecting my ability to keep this under control, so if I start coughing, forgive me.
Thank you for being, I feel your pain, so.
It's like a blessing, right? When you know. But the process, I believe you had the materials from the application that were filed several years ago that landed us on the #1 project on that round of school construction projects for the state. Ours is the only one in the queue right now, 100% subsidized by the state, so we're very pleased with that. But the fixture of the former Lawrence High School, has been part of this community for, it's 117 years old. The building itself, built in 1907. I thought to bring in my office hangs a picture that an individual sent to me of the 1924 graduating class of Lawrence High School out in front of the building, so 100 years ago. But it served the district well. It was conveyed to the district 57 years ago last month, and it was gifted to the school district. So thank you to the town for its generosity. And here we are, the board had a series of motions because, as you probably are aware, the new building is a consolidation that will result in the closure of 3 school buildings. So the board's intention and understanding was that each individual town would have different considerations. And of course, the buildings are in different conditions, but based on that community's needs. So the board authorized me to initiate this. So I spoke with Michelle and sent that conveyance agreement to you. If you wish to consider, I just heard your vote, but I can tell you it can no longer be occupied as a schoolhouse, a school building, and you can read about the condition of it, obviously. It's on, 1.4 acres. There's a large school building and a small building out behind it. And I'm happy to answer any questions that I can about, the intention of the board to bring this to you for your consideration. Fully understand your position, of course.
I want to thank you for first coming and giving us time tonight, and also presenting for us, but questions from the council?
No. I don't have any.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
I just have a quick question.
Yes.
Has Albion or Clinton expressed what they've decided to do with their respective building?
No, and they have not been presented with an agreement. The board voted to close Fairfield Primary. The others are open right now, and we initiated this after we no longer occupied and needed in any way. So, each community's expressed some interest in it, but again, it depends on the needs of the community.
Well, my feeling is that we should not be into this real estate business where we take on a building and then have to see it being sold. So my vote tonight is going to be to not take on the responsibilities of Fairfield Primary.
Because I looked at the report too.
So do we have any other questions for Roberta?
No.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
I appreciate you.
Thank you.
My question.
Discussion.
Discussion too is, when I first heard about this, I put my building hat on saying, we could have used it for 2 things. Since the police department and possible Parks and Rec. Then I put my environmental and what I knew about the building in effect and saw this report. This report was worse than my report. Came out for the municipal buildings.
Yep.
And my children went there. I know about the environmental part of the building, the asbestos, the black mold, and the failure of the building. And take on this other part of this building with other buildings we have is a big mistake.
So I think a lot of us are in agreement. I mean, you look at a project like Gilman Street in Waterville, and I think you can look at the positives and how it can turn out. But that was obviously done through a developer and through the housing authorities. And we just don't have that economic development corporation that we can take on and do separately. So in my mind, do I want to see that property developed? Do you want to see housing there or a good use? Of course, we all do. And I think it is a good spot, and I think there will be a developer who will find that spot. But as a town, we can't take on that expense right now and oversee that. So that's just my opinion, but that's my thought.
Just one thing to add, though, that doesn't mean that we wouldn't be willing, so my office would meet with anybody who had any interest in that property. We would do whatever we could to assist the school if they had someone that was interested in it, because who knows what they'll do with it after this point. That'll be up to the school board after your vote. But we can always help and assist with various different projects. It took a lot of people in a lot of different opportunities in order for 50 Mountain Ave to be developed after however many years that stayed vacant, and one hopes that that's not going to be the case with this structure being right in the middle of our downtown. But we always can do whatever we need, can to help folks with what they need to get a project off the ground and taken care of.
And some of those things, Michelle, I mean, I would think, right, a TIF might be a possibility.
It is always
What
a
else would you
possibility.
consider?
Well, it depends on what somebody wanted to do, but TIFs are always a possibility. But a housing TIF, so housing TIFs work a little bit different than our regular TIF districts. They're usually project specific, so it's the footprint of the project itself. The good thing about a housing TIF with this property is the fact that it's not currently on the tax rolls. Therefore, it's not like it would be taking away any taxable value that we already had. So that's one of those things that actually is a really good fit with this project. Maine State Housing Authority pretty much in most projects that they've had throughout the state require housing TIFs to go with those. That is a funding mechanism for the developer in order to be able to offset the costs of the project. There's usually a lot more other things, but a lot of other things on the table too. But with our work with the Mountain Ave project and the Maine State Housing Authority, this has become a very common approach.
It's really early in the process, but we just passed a bond issue on historical buildings. Who knows where that might fit?
Who knows what will happen with that either, right? So there could be a whole host of things. Plus you've got green energy conversion credits, historical preservation credits. There's all kinds of things. But we'd be more than happy to allude ourselves to anything that the school needs for additional information with that, with a developer or anything.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
What is the motion?
So, yes, you had moved
Motion is to reject.
To reject.
To reject.
And it was seconded. So, all those in favor of the motion to reject? 5-0. Item 24-152, order the town council hereby considers and awards bids received for a municipal plow truck from the Public Works Capital Reserve Equipment Fund.
I would make a motion that we accept the bid from O'Connor Motors.
Second that.
Not a second. Bruce, thank you for being here tonight. I do appreciate you being here. Thoughts, questions from you? Thoughts from your end, advice from you, I guess. We saw thank you for putting together a very complete packet and going out there and getting the bids. I appreciate you taking the time.
How long does the plow truck usually last us?
We hope to get 10 years. This truck is a 2001, so we've got 23 years.
Well done.
Because I remember we discussed this at the budget meeting in February, because I know you discussed a plow truck possibility someday, and a loader.
And the loader, we got the loader.
You got the loader?
That was the first bid a few months ago. We
Okay.
received that in July.
Okay, all right.
My next question, because I am not a mechanical person, and I read through all of the different ones that we were presented with, and the gear lift, is that for the plow itself?
That's so essentially the truck, the cab and chassis, all you're getting is the frame, the wheels, the mechanical portion of it, and the cab. The gear upfit is your plow, your wing, your dump body, your sander, all the valves controlling for that.
So that's coming in all of the packages, right?
Yeah, yes, it's the same price. The way that these
I
vendors
think
did
they're named
this,
differently.
the way the vendors did this, they took two upfitter companies, HP Fairfield and Viking Surveys. And they got a price from each one of those and applied that price to their truck that they bid. Viking Surveys was cheaper than HP Fairfield, so.
Okay. And one thing that we did not get is a recommendation from you as to which way we should go. I didn't see it in here.
My recommendation was to go with O'Connor GMC.
Oh, okay.
It's in a little bit of a reverse order. It's behind some of your, I think it's behind one of the school documents.
Yes, it was.
Oh, yes. Yeah,
O'Connor Motor Company, sorry.
Yeah.
Not GMC.
that's right.
So the unit was $161,375. The gear was $102,000
I did see it.
with a $20,000 trade for our old truck.
Why are you choosing O'Connor? Because I thought there was one that was even less money.
No, they
No?
were the cheapest.
That was the cheapest?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
all right.
So how much will this leave us in the fund there, Michelle, if we purchase this?
So, the current balance in Public Works, economic equipment is $354,509.79.
And this will be delivered for next
So
season.
leave us 1,000.
Yeah.
We would have it by
Next
next plow
season.
season, probably October.
Okay.
Stephanie, it may have been a truck that was cheaper, however, O'Connor's offered a $20,000 trade over everybody else's $10,000.
Yeah, that's right. I was going to say the other one was 10,000 on the
Yes.
trade, so.
Better get it now before the prices go up.
Well, and even if we say now, it's still going to be almost a year before, it'll be 6 months or better before you get it.
Any other questions for Bruce? Bruce, thank you so much for your time. So we had a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
We need to amend the motion, don't we, to
don't
go
think
with
John
that?
said make the motion to accept the bid from O'Connor's.
I made a motion.
Made the full motion at that point. I was waiting to see if what you're going to do, so yeah, we're good. All those in favor of that motion? 5-0, thank you very much. Item 24-153, or the town council hereby votes to correct item 24-75 from the May 22nd, 2024 town council meeting to abate outstanding personal property taxes as uncollectible in the amount of $24,098.18.
So moved. Second.
Motion a second. Discussion, and I guess question for Michelle. I think we have the packet, and so we understand. But
Right.
So
was just-
what happened was, it was
We
a...
were given the wrong amount.
It was just
Yes, exactly.
it was a clerical piece in the report. So as the report showed, and it's the same exact identical report that you were given when information was taken directly from your packet the day of that meeting. There was a total amount listed in the report at the end, and one of them was an amount due, which is the $24,098.18. The total that was used in the agenda for your motion was the $17,999.84, which actually was the total amount of payments that had already been received on these personal property accounts, and not the total amount due. So when the auditors were here going through everything and the abatements that were all done for the $24,098.18, they said, why? We said, well, of course, council approved it. And when we pulled the minutes out, we realized that the wrong number was used, and that needed to be done. So this was part of all the transition stuff, cleanup stuff we did when the tax collector treasurer retired and before we hired the new one.
Okay.
any more discussion?
My question is, Michelle, I see the list there. It says Harding Garage. Is it the current Harding Garage or the different one? Because I thought we had a Harding Garage out in Nice Corner.
This would be different.
Okay.
Because these bills are from 17 and 2017,
Okay, just checking.
2018. This would be different.
Just want to make sure it's the same company.
And sometimes what happens with these too, personal property it's a little bit different. So if you are a business and you declare personal property for a property tax value, and you take that equipment away, say you sell it, whatnot, you also need to tell us that. And sometimes what happens is people forget, and year after year after year after year. And because personal property is not foreclosable, it's one of those things that people have a tendency to forget about.
Okay.
It's not something we can put a lien on that forecloses.
I just thought I asked because I saw that name on there, so.
Yeah, no, I think it must have been a different one. Our goal, though, now that this has been cleaned up and all these back years are taken care of, is to try to come up with a better plan on how to get this taken care of.
Sounds good.
Yes.
Goals.
Goals.
So all those in favor? 5-0. Thank you very much. That leads us to the 8th order of business, which is council workshop and other businesses. So, 1, discuss other council business. John, you'd like to lead. Stephanie,
I am well. I'm good. I'm good.
I'm glad you're well.
And I'm well, too.
Adam,
I'm good.
Peter,
I got a list in front of me. There's a lot of community events going on from now to our next meeting. Tomorrow, there's an event at the Victor Grange, making homemade East rolls and fudge. That's from 6 to 8. Then, that's 21st. And another one is November 30th. There's the gazebo decoration going at 10 o'clock. December 7th, there's multiple events going on that day. Victor Grange just got a event from noon to 3. It's Christmas with the Clauses. Then at 4 o'clock, the gazebo lighting.
When are those? Because none of that has been booked through the town office.
What's that?
Anything with the gazebo, none of that has been booked. Because we had people asking about that.
The coordinators are sitting in the audience right
So,
now.
folks, so you need to come in and fill the paperwork out at the town office, because some people were asking. We actually had somebody who was going to book for something else, so you might want to do that quickly.
Sorry there, Sarah.
Oh, that's all right, that's good, that's, hey, following our policy, that'd be
Yeah.
good, because we hate to have, we get out there and have somebody book our gazebo already, so that'd be good. That would not be.
Everybody
Okay.
shows up to
Be
decorate
awkward.
it, and there's a wedding. It's not going to be good.
All right. And
I
that's
don't know,
it.
maybe they'll like it.
I'd like to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving next week. That's it.
Very good. For me, I don't have too much. I think one is actually, I like to go over, we had one of the old businesses to go over this time. I do need to do a better job. I'll fall on the sword, actually looking at old business and make sure we have a listing of old business, so we can make sure we have that for the next agenda. And anyone out there, if they want to go ahead and email me to make sure, remind me about old business, I'll feel free to send that my way, and we'll make sure we get it on the agenda.
I have one follow-up.
Too late.
It came to my attention on the building committee information. Since our review of the police station back in October of 2023, I've been hearing that it's deteriorated more since my report came out. The floor has sunk more. I think as a council, we need to address that. A possibility of relocation of the police station. We need to discuss that, because they're pleading for help. The screen-
And it has been brought up.
I know.
I know. So we can
and
make
one
a
of the reasons
decision.
why, so it moves all the time, moves
Right.
constantly. But that information was put out there so that folks, the police department created that open house so that folks could go over there and tour the facility and see what was going on with it. So to help show the community the need for getting that building addressed. They did that on the election day. I don't believe anybody attended or toured.
Right.
So definitely something, and it is something we're still working on. That's still part of the projects that we're
So how would you like
trying
to
to get done.
address, I mean, probably,
So that RFP that we're putting together is to address that building as well as the fire station and what that concept looks like.
Excellent.
That's something we're working on.
thank you very much. I wasn't sure about the police station being.
It was
part of that.
including both of them.
Awesome. Very good.
And the possibility, so it basically was to take into consideration what the building committee had done and to include all of that. So once
Thank
that
you
gets done.
Clarifying, Michelle, appreciate it. And so the other thing, I guess, so I listed about talking about old business. So again, I would take advice, any ideas people want, and make sure I get those on there for next time. The next thing from there is I'd like to thank everybody who was involved in the election process. It was a very well-attended election, so that made it very busy for all the election staff there. So good job on working from early in the morning until late at night. So I appreciate your efforts. And for me, I think the last one is to make sure that people do remember Dwayne Bickford and appreciate his service to this town. And so remember that we do have the memorial on Sunday. So
Right.
I think that visiting from 1 to 3 and then
1
the
to 3.
service at 3. And that's at the Williamson Center. So.
I have just one follow-up. Based upon the article that was in today's paper, I did want to clarify that if you have an interest in knowing what's happening on the council agenda, the council minutes, or the information that goes with that, those are posted on our website. And when it comes to social media, we do have 5 active social media pages for various different departments, including the police department, the fire department, the library, Crossroads TV, and the town office. So we do have those things in place.
I think other than that, I just want to wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving. And it's, so I thank everybody for being here tonight. That's, the next regular meeting of the Fairfield Town Council will be on Wednesday, December 13th, 2023, to be held as a hybrid meeting in council chambers and via Zoom at 6:30 PM. At this time, we'll go into recess.
Move to recess.
Second.
Peter.